developing story right now. The Israeli military seizing the Palestinian side of the Rafah border crossing following a series of airstrikes that killed at least 15 people. A source familiar with Israel's plans tells CNN the Rafah operation is intended to keep the pressure up on Hamas to agree to a ceasefire and hostage release deal on Israel's terms. Many Gazans have been heeding warnings to evacuate eastern Rafah. And in Tel Aviv, thousands of Israelis taking to the streets to demand the government reach a deal to return the remaining hostages. Israeli negotiators are expected in Cairo today to continue ceasefire negotiations that are on the verge, it seems, of falling apart. Let's bring in former federal prosecutor Elliot Williams, former RNC Communications Director Doug Heye, and CNN senior reporter Isaac Dover, all here with us. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Isaac, I want to start with you on President Biden, and let's really kind of drill into the imperative around a ceasefire for him and his administration, because this, of course, has been something that has rippled across campuses in this country. It has really divided the Democratic Party. And this is something the White House was grappling with all day yesterday as they tried to figure out exactly what was going on among the parties here. What's your understanding of how the White House is viewing where negotiations stand right now and the ways in which they are trying to get a ceasefire here as, frankly, the political imperatives ratchet up on him?
Well, look, you hit it there because there's the political imperatives and then there's what's actually going on in the negotiations. And part of the problem that the Biden administration is facing here and the president is facing is that it is clear that you don't have a completely honest and forthright broker in Hamas, to say the least, and that they're also dealing with maybe a situation where they don't have a completely honest relationship coming from Benjamin Netanyahu. And how Biden, who is from the beginning has said he is not looking at the politics of this. He is looking at this as how to get to a long-term solution on the immediate thing here, and in his mind, hopes for something bigger. It is how he's approaching this, but look, the politics are there, and it is something that is not showing up as something so far that is as big of an issue for voters as some of the coverage of it has been, but it also maybe is reaching the point where it will be a disqualifying political issue. Yeah. And it's the sort of thing where maybe people are saying, oh, the economy is still their top issue, but they when they think about Israel and they think about the handling of Israel, are saying, well, I actually can't be with Biden. And that may be where things go. Do
you think the administration, and I actually should probably frame this in terms of the Biden campaign, do you think the Biden campaign believes that if this war is still going on in 6 months, when voters go to the polls, that it is significantly more likely they will lose?
It's very hard to tell, right? And especially because of the terms of this election that they know are going to be a sort of referendum on Donald Trump and all the other things that are going to be going on. They obviously would rather not be in this situation. Right. And but again, I talked to Ted Kaufman, who was Joe Biden's chief of staff for a very long time, succeeded in the Senate, all the way back in October about this, right at the start. And he said, listen, nobody has had more years of experience going to the Middle East and to Israel than Joe Biden. Nobody has sat through more top secret briefings than he has. Yeah. He has a very clear view of what to happen here. And he is, you see it even in what he said last week when he was asked after his brief statement about the campus protests, has any of this changed your position? He just said no. He knows where he's going on this. But the politics are running into it. And that has been an issue that even among his advisors has been a constant topic of conversation. Well,
and of course, the images coming off the campuses here in the U.S. have complicated this for him. Donald Trump has been in his hush money trial for most of the beginning of this week anyway, but he did, after the trial concluded for the day, have this to say about protests on college campuses. Watch.
Columbia just canceled their commencement. That shouldn't happen. And it also came out that the protesters, many of the protesters, are backed by Biden's donors. Okay? Are you listening, Israel? I hope you're listening, Israel. Hope you're getting smart.
So, Doug, hi. How do you see what is playing out on these college campuses and how it impacts what we're going to see in November? Because, Isaac's point, and I hear this from Biden sources too, they'll say, well, this isn't a voting issue for people, or it's not a top voting issue for people. But chaos in America tends to become a voting issue in a way that perhaps a war being fought abroad doesn't always.
Yeah, I was on the campus of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, my alma mater, on Thursday, which had a flare-up of some of these issues earlier in the week. And walking on campus, I would not have known that anything had gone on previously. The campus was gorgeous and clean. Kids were playing soccer on the lawn and things like that. It's partially because our chancellor, Lee Roberts, has done an extremely good job where a lot of college administrators have failed. And what we've seen is so often, this is often the case in politics, the loudest voices dominate the conversation. That's surely the case at Columbia and George Washington and Harvard and other places. But I'm also mindful of when we see protests like this, the overwhelming majority of students aren't protesting or counter-protesting. They're trying to get to class. They're trying to play some sports, probably trying to meet some co-eds and try and have the normal college experience.
Do we still call them co-eds, Doug?
I think so. Some of us do if we're really old. But they want to live that normal college experience. They want to have a graduation. And so when we talk about chaos, yes, this can reflect largely on Biden to some extent if this goes on for months and months. But the students overwhelmingly are tired of the chaos. They want to go to class, take their exams, and graduate.
Yeah, I mean, Elliot, we saw a little bit of that at the University of Michigan. We played some from their commencement over the weekend where it was video, yes, of protesters trying to disrupt graduation. But what you could hear were people yelling back at them, hey, I just want to graduate.
Right, and I'm genuinely curious as to what percentage, if any, and I don't have the answers on this, are not actually students, number one. Right. And number two are grad students versus undergraduates. Now, of course, if people are misbehaving and breaking the law, no matter who they are, it shouldn't matter. We talked about this on the program last week, but who is it that's actually participating here? But to the point, yes, I think a lot of kids or adults, young adults, wish to be going through their lives and attending classes and graduating and so on. And the great tragedy here, as with their senior year in college, they got disrupted by COVID.
Yeah.
Much of their experience is changing, but that doesn't change anybody's right.
Right.
At UNC, one of the people who was arrested was a Duke professor. Nothing's ever good when Duke people come to UNC, but it's not just an organic
a great piece of anecdata,
movement.
Doug. An excellent piece of anecdata.